Oftentimes, when we get used to things, we forget just how lucky we are to have them. The laughter, the quiet moments, the relationships, the sense of belonging. All these little moments that make up our daily lives, they're easy to take for granted, especially when we don't see the other side of the coin.
Water wars have been happening for centuries, but there's a big reason why we may be seeing more in the future: climate change. Increasing global temperatures causes more water to evaporate, changing the water cycle.
So let's flip the coin and see what life is like for billions of people who lack access to safe water, sanitation, and hygiene. Every day, millions of people around the world wake up to a harsh reality. They don't have access to clean water. For them, finding water is not just a matter of turning on a tap. It's a daily struggle for survival. This lack of access to safe water not only affects their health, but also hinders their ability to thrive and prosper. In fact, according to the UN, billions of people still lack access to safe water, sanitation, and hygiene. And with this, diseases and avoidable deaths sustain, eventually perpetuating poverty. Not to mention, without proper sanitation, women and girls face significantly more health risks. They're more likely to get urinary and reproductive infections, especially during menstruation and pregnancy. And in the Philippines, we face natural disasters like typhoons and floods, which can damage water and sanitation systems, making health risks worse. Including measures to reduce disaster risks in water and sanitation planning is crucial for protecting vulnerable communities. Truly, water is crucial. It affects so many aspects of our society and well-being, yet billions still lack access to it. Just because we don't see it does not mean it is not happening, which is why SDG 6 is crucial. SDG 6 aims to ensure the availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. This SDG is primarily concerned with access to safe water, sanitation, and hygiene as the most basic human need for health and well-being. Ideally, along with other sustainable development goals, SDG 6 is set to be achieved globally by 2030. It has almost been a decade since SDG 6 was established in 2015, and only a few years left until 2030. The question is, has there been any progress? Ideally, along with other sustainable development goals, SDG 6 is set to be achieved globally by 2030. It has almost been a decade since SDG 6 was established in 2015, and only a few years left until 2030. The question is, has there been any progress? When looking at the bigger picture, the world has been making great progress towards SDG 6. However, when we take a closer look at the picture, we can see that progress towards SDG 6 is not the same for every country. Progress shown by data and reports does not necessarily mean that every country is on the same level. Countries like Singapore, South Korea, and Denmark are close to achieving SDG 6, while countries like in sub-Saharan Africa are still far off. Now let's focus on our own. How's the Philippines getting along?
There are calls for delegates at the COP26 summit to include water security in their discussions over the next 2 weeks. Climate change is making the water cycle more volatile, with droughts and floods likely to become more extreme and frequent. Global warming is also affecting how much water is naturally stored in water bodies like ice, snow, and lakes. Yvannah Bernal reports from the Philippines, a nation of over 7,600 islands, where water security remains a problem for many.
In the heart of the Philippines, amidst a vibrant culture and diverse communities, lies a challenge that affects us all: ensuring access to clean water and sanitation for every Filipino. As part of a privileged community, We do not typically pay attention to the easily accessible and available clean water and sanitation that we use in our daily lives. Or worse, we might even unconsciously take them for granted. However, just because we don't see it doesn't mean it is not happening. Water scarcity is a harsh reality for many marginalized communities. As of 2023, approximately 52% of Filipinos are still not receiving safely managed water services, and 37% still lack access to basic sanitation facilities. Achieving SDG 6 is not just about global initiatives or international targets. It is about local action, with each and every one of us playing our part to make a difference in our own communities. As Lasallians, we must uphold our core value of zeal for service and help bring change to the marginalized and the vulnerable, even by just taking small actions. So what can we do? For a lot of us, clean water and sanitation is a daily reality. We turn on the faucet or flush the toilet and barely give it a second thought. But just because you don't see it doesn't mean it is not happening. Millions of people around the world are struggling without this basic necessity. This crisis may seem distant, but its effects are far-reaching. Diseases spread, development stalls, and education suffers. We can't ignore this any longer. We need to act with urgency and compassion. So here are some few things that we can do. Option 1. Focus on individual actions. Conserve water at home by taking shorter showers and fixing leaky faucets. Support organizations working on clean water and sanitation projects. Spread awareness about SDG 6 and its importance for clean water and sanitation. Option 2. A collective action. Demand action from our governments to invest in clean water and sanitation infrastructure. Hold businesses accountable for their water usage and water disposal practices. Educate and empower communities to manage their water resources sustainably. By coming together and taking action, we can ensure that everyone, regardless of where they live or who they are, has access to clean water and sanitation. Let's not just witness the challenges, but actively work towards solutions. Together, we can bridge the gap between what we see and what's happening, creating a world where every person's basic needs are met, and no one is left behind. Together, we can bridge the gap between what we see and what's happening.